My name is Claire Morgan, and this happened while I was working the night shift at a county hospital in the United States. I've told pieces of this story to co-workers before, but I've never told it all at once. Most people don't want to hear it anyway. Hospitals already make people uncomfortable. Adding this to the picture doesn't help. But what happened wasn't stress. It wasn't exhaustion. And it wasn't my imagination. I know that because I wasn't the only one who heard it. I had been a registered nurse for 6 years when this happened. I'd worked day shifts, swing shifts, and overnight rotations. I knew how the hospital sounded at every hour. I knew which noises mattered and which ones didn't. Night shift had its own personality. During the day, hospitals feel busy, alive, constantly moving. At night, they feel hollow, the lights dim, footsteps echo longer than they should. Even the air feels heavier, like the building is holding its breath. That night, I was assigned to the third-floor medical ward, East Wing, mostly long-term patients and post-op recovery. No ER chaos, no ICU alarms, just quiet rooms and routine checks. Or at least, that's how it was supposed to be. My shift started at 7 p.m. The handoff report was uneventful. No aggressive patients, no codes expected. Just charting, vitals, and monitoring. One of my patients was Robert Hayes, age 67, type 2 diabetes, kidney complications, admitted for observation. He'd been there a few days already. He was polite, soft-spoken, the kind of patient who apologized for pressing the call button. I remembered him clearly because he reminded me of my grandfather. At around 9:30 p.m., I checked his vitals. Blood pressure stable, oxygen normal. He asked for water and thanked me twice when I handed it to him. That was the last normal interaction I had with him. After midnight, the floor settled into its usual quiet rhythm. Most patients were asleep. Monitors beeped softly in their rooms. The hallway lights were dimmed to that yellowish glow. Hospitals use at night bright enough to see, but dark enough to keep people sleeping. I was at the nurse's station charting when I first noticed how quiet it felt. Too quiet. No footsteps, no distant carts, no murmured conversations from other floors. Just the low hum of the ventilation system. At 2:17 the silence broke. The call light panel chimed. Room 312. Robert Hayes. I glanced at the panel, then at the clock. It didn't surprise me. Patients wake up at night all the time. Pain, bathroom, anxiety. I grabbed my badge, clipboard, and walked down the hallway. The walk to room 312 felt longer than usual. That's not something I noticed at the time, but looking back, I realized how aware I was of every step. The sound of my shoes, the way the overhead lights buzzed faintly. When I reached the door, I knocked lightly. "Mr. Hayes?" I said. No response. I knocked again, louder this time, and pushed the door open. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Hospitals have a specific scent cleaning solution, plastic, something faintly medicinal, but this room smelled empty, like it hadn't been used. The bed was empty, not rumpled, not messy, empty in a way that didn't make sense. The sheets were tightly tucked, the pillow perfectly placed, the IV pole unplugged and pushed to the side of the room. For a second, my brain tried to catch up. Maybe he'd been transferred. Maybe transport came without updating the board. Maybe I missed something during report. But the patient status board outside the room still listed him as present. My heart rate picked up. I checked the bathroom. Empty. No walker, no shoes, no personal items. I stepped back into the hallway and radioed the charge nurse. "This is Claire on 3 East, I said. "Room 312, patient's not in bed." There was a pause. "That's not right," she replied. "He hasn't been discharged or transferred." As I stood there, the call light turned off. I looked up at the panel. Then, less than 2 seconds later, it turned back on. Room 312. I felt a cold prickle run up my arms. I stepped back inside the room. That's when I noticed the call button cord. It was moving. Not swinging wildly, just a slow, gentle sway, like someone had released it moments ago. I walked closer and picked it up. It was warm, not room temperature. Warm, like it had just been held. My mouth went dry. "Mr. Hayes," I said again, my voice barely steady. That's when I heard it. A whisper, right behind me. I pressed it. I spun around so fast I nearly lost my balance. The room was empty. No movement, no shadow, no reflection in the glass of the window. Just me. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I backed out of the room and called security. They searched the floor, checked stairwells, checked cameras. No sign of Robert Hayes. At 3:05 a.m., the supervisor pulled up his chart. That's when everything stopped making sense. The supervisor stared at the computer screen longer than she should have. I could tell by the way her jaw tightened that something wasn't right. "Claire," she said slowly, "according to this, Robert Hayes was pronounced dead at 8:42 p.m. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because my brain refused to accept it. "That's not possible," I said. "I checked his vitals after 9. I talked to him. He asked me for water." She didn't look at me. "He coded during shift change," she said quietly. "There was confusion with the charting. He was supposed to be transferred to the morgue, but transport got delayed." My stomach dropped. "You're telling me," I said, my voice shaking, "that the patient whose call button just went off has been dead for over 5 hours?" She finally met my eyes. "Yes." Security finished their sweep and found nothing. Cameras showed no one entering or leaving. Room 312, after 8:45 p.m. No transport, no visitors, no staff. At 3:30 a.m., the charge nurse made the call to lock the room until morning. A red "Do Not Enter" sign was taped to the door. I didn't argue. I couldn't stop staring at the call light panel. Room 312 was dark. I tried to finish my shift like nothing had happened. That was a mistake. Around 4:10 a.m., while I was charting at the nurse's station, I heard it again. The chime. Soft, polite. The call light turned on. Room 312. Someone at the desk muttered, "What the hell?" The charge nurse stood up immediately. "That room is locked." We all watched as the light turned off. Then back on. Then off again. Like someone was testing it. Maintenance was called. They checked the wiring. No faults. No crossed lines. No system errors. "Probably residual current," one of them said, not sounding convinced. The charge nurse ordered the breaker for that room switched off. The panel went dark. For a moment, everything felt normal again. At 5:02 a.m., the breaker tripped itself. Room 312 lit up. I felt my knees go weak. Morning shift came, and with it, daylight and noise and the illusion that everything was fine. I stayed late, sitting in the break room, staring at my coffee until it went cold. I told myself I'd imagined the warmth of the call button, that exhaustion had filled in gaps. Then the day shift nurse assigned to 312 walked in. "Hey," she said casually, "why's my room locked?" No one answered. She frowned. "And why is there still a patient name on the board? Didn't Hayes get discharged?" The room went quiet. Administration decided to temporarily close room 312. They didn't announce why. Hospitals don't like questions they can't answer. By the second night, rumors had started. Someone said an old nurse had refused to work that room years ago. Someone else said patients complained of hearing voices late at night. Another swore they'd seen the call light activate with no one inside. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. The next night, I was assigned to the same floor again. I asked for reassignment. They denied it. "We're short-staffed," the charge nurse said, "and the room's closed. You'll be fine." I didn't feel fine. At 2:17 I was in the medication room when the chime sounded again. Room 312. I dropped the pill cup. My heart was racing so hard I thought I might pass out. The call light stayed on. Steady. Not flickering. Waiting. The hallway was empty. Even security had moved down to another floor. Against my better judgment, I walked toward the room. The door was still locked. The red sign still taped in place. As I stood there, staring at it, I heard something from inside. A soft clicking sound, like plastic being pressed. I leaned closer, and then I heard his voice, clearer than before. "Nurse?" I stumbled back. "That's impossible," I whispered. The handle rattled. Just once. Then the call light turned off. I reported everything. Again. This time, administration listened. They pulled older records for room 312. That's when the pattern emerged. Over the past 15 years, 7 patients had died in that room. Not unusual. What was unusual was the timing. 5 of them had activated their call button after death. Always between 2 and 2:30 a.m. Always once. Always politely. No alarms. No codes. No screaming. Just a request. One retired nurse finally spoke up. She asked not to be named. "That room used to be part of the old ward," she said. "Back when patients died alone more often. No cameras, fewer staff." She paused. "Some people don't realize they're gone. They press the button because that's what they did when they needed help." I asked her why it stopped sometimes. She looked at me with tired eyes. "Because eventually," she said, "someone answers." At 2:16 a.m., on my 3rd night back, I stood outside room 312. The hallway lights dimmed slightly. The air felt heavy. I raised my hand. The chime sounded. Room 312. I didn't move. From inside the locked room, very softly, I heard, "Please." I don't know why I did it, but I unlocked the door. The lock clicked louder than it should have. In a hospital, you get used to sounds, alarms, carts, footsteps, but that click echoed down the hallway like a warning. I stood there for a moment with my hand still on the handle, my heart pounding, already regretting what I'd done. The door swung open slowly. Room 312 looked exactly the same as it had the night before. Bed neatly made, curtains half drawn. No sign that anyone had ever been there, but the temperature dropped the moment I stepped inside. It wasn't dramatic, no visible breath, no sudden gust, but it was unmistakable. The air felt dense, heavy, like the room was holding on to something it didn't want to let go of. "Mr. Hayes," I said, quietly. No response. I took another step in and closed the door behind me. The hallway light vanished, leaving the room illuminated only by the small night lamp near the bed. Shadows pooled in the corners, thick and unmoving. I hated how calm everything felt. Hospitals are rarely calm. Even at night, there's usually some low-level activity, machines humming, monitors beeping, distant voices. In room 312, all of that seemed muted, like the sound had been turned down. I walked to the bedside and picked up the call button, cold this time, not warm like before. I let out a shaky breath and told myself that meant something, anything that pointed back toward logic. Then the bed dipped, just slightly, like someone had sat down. I froze. The mattress compressed near the pillow, the sheet wrinkling as if pressed by invisible weight. My eyes were locked on that spot, my brain screaming at me to run, but my legs wouldn't move. I heard breathing, slow, shallow, right beside me. "Nurse," the voice said again, barely louder than a breath. I can't feel my hands. I recognized it immediately. Robert Hayes. Not distorted, not hollow, just tired. I swallowed hard. "Mr. Hayes," I said, forcing the words out. You're not on this floor anymore." There was a pause, then the breathing hitched. "I know," he whispered. "That's why I pressed it." My chest tightened. "What do you need?" I asked before I could stop myself. The bed sank a little deeper, as if he leaned toward me. "I don't want to be alone," he said. The room darkened. Not suddenly, but gradually, like someone turning down a dimmer switch. The corners of the room blurred, shadows stretching unnaturally along the walls. I backed away from the bed, my hand searching for the door behind me. "I can't help you," I whispered. "I'm sorry." The breathing grew faster. "Please," he said. They always leave. The call light panel outside the room chimed again. Once, twice, 3 times. I felt pressure building in my ears, the same way it does when an elevator drops too fast. Then I heard other sounds, not footsteps but murmurs, low voices, overlapping, coming from the walls, the ceiling, the floor, different voices, different ages, all whispering the same thing. Help! I ran. I didn't bother opening the door carefully. I yanked it open and stumbled into the hallway, gasping for air like I'd been underwater. The hallway lights flickered violently. Behind me, the door to room 312 slammed shut. The call light panel went dark. Every light on the floor followed. Total darkness. Someone screamed down the hall. Emergency lights kicked on seconds later, bathing everything in dim red. Security came running. So did the charge nurse. They found me sitting on the floor outside 312, shaking so badly I couldn't stand. I told them everything, every word. For once, no one told me I was tired. No one told me I was imagining things. Because as they stood there, listening, the call light turned on again. Room 312. Administration couldn't ignore it anymore. They shut the room down permanently that morning. Not for repairs, not for renovations. They sealed it. Furniture removed, power disconnected, door bolted shut. A new patient room number replaced it on the board, skipping 312 entirely. Officially, room 312 no longer existed. Unofficially, people still avoided that part of the hall. I requested a transfer to day shift. It was approved immediately, no questions asked. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. A week later, I was working days on a different floor when I heard the familiar chime. Room 312. My blood ran cold. I looked at the panel. There was no room 312 listed, but the panel was lit anyway. Maintenance was called again. Logs were checked. The system showed the activation originating from nowhere. No room, no floor, just a signal. That night, at home, I woke up at 2:17 a.m. I don't know why. My bedroom was dark and quiet. My phone buzzed softly on the nightstand. A notification. Missed call. No caller ID. Just one voicemail. I stared at it for a long time before pressing play. At first, there was only static. Then I heard breathing. And then, very softly, "Nurse?" I dropped the phone. I didn't sleep after that voicemail. I sat on the edge of my bed until the sun came up. Lights on. Television playing some random morning show just to fill the silence. Every few minutes, I checked my phone, terrified another notification would appear. It didn't. That scared me more, because whatever had called me now knew where I lived. I took the day off work and told my supervisor I was sick. She didn't argue. Her voice sounded relieved, like she was glad I wasn't in the building. By noon, I convinced myself that the voicemail could still be explained. Wrong number, prank, glitch. But deep down, I knew better. At 2:17 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang 6 times. Stopped, then rang again immediately. I watched it vibrate on the table like it was alive. When it finally stopped, a voicemail notification appeared. I didn't listen to it. I deleted it. That was my first mistake. That night, I dreamed of the hospital. Not the way it looks during the day, but the way it feels at night. Empty halls stretching longer than they should. Doors that led to the wrong rooms. Cool lights glowing without sound. In the dream, I was walking toward room 312. The door was open. Inside, every bed was occupied. Every patient was staring at me. All of them had call buttons in their hands. All of them pressed at the same time. I woke up screaming. The clock read 2:17 a.m. My phone lit up instantly. Incoming call. Unknown. I answered without thinking. Hello? I whispered. The line crackled. Breathing. More than one set. Then Robert Hayes' voice clearer than ever. You shouldn't have stopped answering. I dropped the phone again. But this time, it didn't disconnect. The voices kept coming through the speaker. Dozens of them. Men. Women. Children. All whispering over each other. They forget us. They leave us. Don't hang up. I slammed the phone face down. sobbing. The voices stopped. The next day, I went back to the hospital. I didn't care if they fired me. I needed answers. I went straight to the records office and asked for patient death logs, specifically for the East Wing, 3rd floor, going back 20 years. The clerk hesitated. Then she sighed and handed me the files. People don't usually ask for those, she said quietly. I found Robert Hayes quickly. Cause of death: cardiac arrest. Time of death: 2:17 a.m. Location: room 312. Then I noticed something else. The same time appeared again, and again, and again. Different names, different years. Same room, same minute. 2:17 a. I felt sick. How many? I asked. The clerk didn't look at me. Enough that they sealed the room twice, she said. And it didn't help. That night, the calls became constant. Every time I declined one, another came in. If I turned my phone off, it turned itself back on. Voicemails piled up. I finally listened to one. It wasn't Robert this time. It was a woman. I pressed it like they told me, she cried. No one came. Another voicemail. A child. I'm scared. Another. A man. Angry. Why did you answer before and not now? I realized then what the call button really was. It wasn't asking for help. It was asking for acknowledgement. As long as someone answered, they stayed. Ignored, they faded. Or worse. At exactly 2:16 a.m. The next night, my phone rang again. I answered. I'm listening, I said, my voice shaking. The line went quiet. Then Robert spoke. Thank you, he said. We just didn't want to disappear alone. The call ended. So did the ringing. Forever. I quit nursing. 2 weeks later. Moved states. Changed my number. I don't work in hospitals anymore. But sometimes, when everything is quiet, when the house feels too still, I swear I hear it. A soft electronic chime. A call button. Waiting. And every time I look at the clock, it's 2:17 a.m.